ECU?
R.
Do you bleed purple and gold? Are you ready to hoist the colors?
Hoist the colors!
It's time for the most in-depth look into the world of ECU athletics. Welcome to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Here's Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday, October 14th edition of the program. We've got a lot to get to. A little breaking news on the American Conference. Next year's opponents are set for ECU football. We'll get into that and a whole lot more. We're going to talk with Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst. We're also going to take a look around the American this year as the Pirates are maybe still alive for a run at a conference title. We'll get into that and who are the other true title contenders after a few weeks of play in the American. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and X. If you have a question, comment, concern, drop it in those chats. We'll get to it over the course of the next hour. Again, just 2 days out from ECU Tulsa on this Tuesday. It'll be a Thursday night contest inside Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium, so still efforting to get a Tulsa insider on the show over the coming programs as well. Philip Pilkington back in the 94.3 The Game studios. And Philip, first off, good to see you again. And I'm going to be fully transparent with you and the audience here. Around 12:45, I'm going to be trying to position myself to order Seattle Mariners World Series tickets. So if I seem distracted at that time, I may need you to take over. They don't go on sale till 1 o'clock Eastern, but you know, you got to get in a little queue on Ticketmaster and all that stuff. I'm trying to get some at face value. So if I seem distracted around that time, that's why.
Okay, yeah, no worries. I think you've trained me well. I feel good that I can step in and close if I have to. I'll make sure during that last break to get some stretching and tossing and get loose in the bullpen.
As long as I'm in the queue, I'm good. But these Ticketmaster not exactly the most reliable technology out there. So pray for me. Mariners, by the way, up 2-0. We'll get into Trey Savage maybe a little bit around that time as well. Didn't pitch as bad as his line indicated. I thought had some bad luck. We'll talk about that later. Let's first get to the big news, man. Look, anytime you get schedule release in any American football, obviously one close to home, it's a big deal. And yeah, we don't have the schedule, the dates, but it feels like the American might just be the last team to announce its conference opponents, or last conference, I should say, to announce its league opponents for next season. And here is how it looks for East Carolina. Again, of course, the Pirates are currently playing the 2025 season, but this is for 2026 conference opponents. ECU at home next year will get Florida Atlantic. They will get Rice, they will get South Florida, and they'll get Temple. So they get 3 Owls. All 3 conference Owl mascots are coming to Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium. And then on the road, they get Army, they get Charlotte, Memphis, and UAB. Obviously, you have unbalanced schedules with a 14-team league. ECU will miss in conference play Navy, Tulane, UTSA, North Texas, and Tulsa. So all things considered here, Philip, I feel like you got to feel pretty good if you're the Pirates about the draw.
Yeah, you got to feel really good if you're Morgan Ehlers. You always use Owls, and it just kind of stays the same week in and week out with your PA announcing. So I think he's the real winner of this thing. Now, when you look at this thing, you got one really tough road game. You've got in Memphis, you've got one kind of tricky road game, as they always are when you go on the road to these service academies. Another opportunity for Pirate fans to go up to West Point, so that'll be really cool. And at home, you feel good about those contests. I mean, obviously, you hope that South Florida is one of the top teams in the league, and that is a kind of an opportunity type game to put yourself in that upper echelon of teams. But at home, you feel good about it. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of turnover on these rosters between now and then. But overall, I think 5-3's underperformance here. To be honest, I think that's your floor right now is 5-3. So, good place to be in.
As you mentioned, there's so much unknown. You can't really forecast necessarily who's going to be at the top, who's going to be at the bottom. We don't even know what ECU is going to look like next year at all. But just for if you look at the names and you realize, all right, really you kind of have to base it on what teams in the conference have the most resources. And, realistically, Memphis is at the top. They are followed by the group of Tulane and USF. Those teams, more than likely, are going to be good year in and year out, or at least talented, I should say, have the talent to win the league. Yeah. So, look, you get two of those three. You get one of them at home in South Florida. You have to go to Memphis, which is a challenge, but ECU, at least they know under this coaching staff, some of these coaches have won there. So, that's not a game you can't win. Obviously, Army and Navy are their own beasts in what they do. You get one of those in Army, as you said, on the road. So, those are challenging games. But, outside of that, ECU should have more financial resources unless something's about to change with some of these schools' NIL and rev share output than an FAU, then a Rice, then a Temple, then a Charlotte, then a UAB. So I feel, again, ECU, I think 5-3 is spot on. That should be your floor, and obviously you hope for more. And then let's compare that with the non-conference schedule, which honestly is pretty tough. So I was worried going into next year after scheduling the Alabama game. I'm like, man, obviously you're getting a good paycheck there, but if you're not careful, you can really schedule yourself into a hole. Let's just be honest. That's probably the most guaranteed loss without it being a true loss going in, if that makes any sense. Just on paper, it would be a shock to win that game. So you're probably going to open 0-1. Then you get App State at home. When's the last time ECU beat App State? A long time. Then you go to ODU. ODU is quietly one of the best Group of 5 contenders this year. That's a tricky game. And then you get North Carolina Central. So the non-conference next year looks tough on paper. So I was worried, if you couple that with a tough conference schedule, let's say you somehow draw Tulane, UTSA, North Texas, Memphis, South Florida, all those teams, I was kind of worried. But now I think this balances it out a little bit, Philip. I have a little bit more, I'm not going to say high expectations going into next year because we don't know what it all looks like, but I think it's a favorable draw compared to the non-conference as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of the tough thing is you don't want to push yourself behind the 8 ball. It kind of feels like it did this year where it's like, oh, man, all the tough games are going to be at the beginning. Obviously, we don't know when that South Florida, that Memphis game falls, so that's part of it as well. But this is definitely the conference releasing this today after Trent Dilfert being fired yesterday is a middle finger to you and I, how we wanted a Trent Dilfert ECU. And we have not played UAB. It's one of two teams we have not played since the conference realigned. South Florida being one of those teams. Obviously, the Pirates played them in the Old American, and UAB. We were most looking forward to UAB, and they announced it the day after Trent gets fired. So thank you to the American Athletic Conference for just rubbing it in Steve Igo and myself's face. We do appreciate that very not at all. So, yeah.
I knew that was going to happen because I had somebody told me that they were releasing the conference schedule on Tuesday. I'm like, I know UAB is going to be on it, and that means we're going to miss Trent Dilfert by a year. But it is what it is. Some comments here. We got some comments on this season, which we'll get to when we go around the American a little bit later, so keep those coming. But Ryan Cole says such a dud of a conference home slate aside from South Florida, and I agree. The only saving grace, Ryan, you look at the home schedule, it's not great. At least you do get App State week 2. It should be a high-energy football game, but your home slate is North Carolina Central, Rice, FAU, Temple, and then you get South Florida and App State, which are decent games, but definitely not many headliners there.
Who's the Thursday night game, Igo? Who's the home Thursday night game prediction?
That's a good question, and John Moody says 100% ECU USF will be the Thursday, Friday night home game next year, and I have to agree with him. If you look at all these, I guess, high-profile American games, if they want to stick a good matchup on, I think USF ECU on one of those weeknights makes sense. As much as I would hate it, I want that to be a Saturday game so ECU can have maximum home field advantage. But that would align. Who I guess we get Tulsa ECU on Thursday, so anything can happen. But I don't see. Do we really want Temple ECU on a Thursday again? There
was that run of Temple ECU on a Thursday, 2017, 18, 19. I think it was 3 years in a row or something. There was definitely back-to-back home games. Over a 3-year span that were against Temple. So there's that. Man, I don't know. I'm hoping it's Temple. Give me Temple. Don't put the Bulls on a Thursday night when nobody can make it. You know what's going to happen? Here's what's going to happen. We're going to have fall break on a Thursday and a Friday. And the freaking South Florida game is going to be on the Thursday of fall break. Because that's how these things happen.
Don't give the American any ideas because they listen to this show. And they're now gonna do that. They're gonna take advantage of that right now. So yeah, look, it just, Jansen adds it might be one of the most favorable schedules we've had in the American, and it does look that way on paper. But we'll see. We'll see how it all lines up. Again, so much unknown going into an offseason. Jones Bones says biggest thing this offseason, keep Caden Hauser. I like Hauser as a senior in this conference. Yeah, if you can keep him and keep many of the key pieces, I think you got a shot to make a run next year. But just so unknown, we'll get into that conversation later. So there is your 2026 ECU football opponents. We finally have that. We've been waiting on that for a while. So the conference puts that news out this morning, and we'll continue to react to that if you have any other statements or questions about it. Let's go ahead and get a break in. We'll address the current American Conference in segment 3. Coming up next, though, we're going to catch up with Kevin Monroe, talk about his son, Butter Monroe, freshman varsity, is crushing it. Obviously, we know Marcus is on his way to Stanford as a committed player there. We'll talk about that and obviously his take on ECU Tulane, ECU Tulsa, and more. So all that coming next. Kevin Monroe on the other side.
The team of Flatlands Jessup is working overtime to help ensure that Eastern North Carolinians like you get the health insurance help you need this open enrollment period. New legislation passed meaning more people than ever qualify for affordable coverage. Let us help you today.
Big tax credits are back. Get a 30% tax credit, up to $2,000 off your new Mitsubishi electric heat pump install. Let Comfort Master help you take advantage of the tax credits with a qualifying Mitsubishi electric ducted heat pump or non-ducted Mitsubishi electric mini splits. Mitsubishi electric mini splits are ideal for bonus rooms, garages, or sunrooms. If you need a new HVAC unit, call Comfort Master today.
Call Comfort Master. Call Comfort Master.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Healthwise Pharmacy rounds the bases with all of your infusion, retail, compounding, and medical equipment needs. Locally owned and operated by pharmacist Marcy Parker, Healthwise has grown to be your most trusted provider for infusion services. Currently providing in-home or on-site infusions in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Virginia. Visit Healthwise Pharmacy at 615B South Memorial Drive or call 252-295-0059 to speak to a patient service representative to find the option that best suits your needs.
Tired of the 1-800 numbers advertising Medicare products? Flatlands Jessup has 6 offices all throughout Eastern North Carolina. Get face-to-face help from our local award-winning licensed team. Stop by today. Flatlands Jessup, your whole world covered.
The best burgers around. Everyone loves a thick, juicy, and fresh burger. Tiebreakers does real burgers better than anybody. And don't forget about the cheese sticks, fresh salads, and more. So don't just go to any burger-themed restaurant chain. It's time to break the chain and eat local. Tiebreakers, burgers and sports at its best.
Go Pirates! Arg!
In this age of globalization, we've learned that bigger isn't always better. Ever tried to get phone help from a big corporation from a real person? Right. That's what's so nice about Phelps Chevrolet. After more than 50 years serving our community, Phelps remains family-owned and operated. Mike, Daryl, Wave, West, Allen, and Clay deliver hometown service and integrity, same as always. They share your experience, they share your values, and they are ready to help with any motoring need. Come get you one.
Oh, hey.
To hoist the colors on a Tuesday. It is October 14th, 2 days away from East Carolina hosting Tulsa inside Dowdy Ficklen Stadium. We'll preview that game as we do just about every game with Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst. Kevin, welcome back. And man, another Thursday night game. Let's first recap the the Thursday night game against Tulane. Just another kind of missed opportunity. Pirates had a chance. It was an odd game. First half kind of got away from them, but they kept the score close. In the second half, they had a chance to win. So what did you make of that contest down in New Orleans?
Yeah, it was a frustrating first half, for Pirate fans and how well the Pirates have played as of late defensively. And then offensively, they've moved the ball pretty well against most teams. They really struggled in that first half. And I think at one point they had only 4 yards through the first quarter of offense. They just couldn't get anything going, several 3-and-outs. Missed opportunities, slow to run the football early on, and just it didn't feel good. Luckily, the defense bowed their necks in the red zone and on some short fields, and held Tulane to field goals time after time after time, which was pretty incredible. Like I know Tulane was frustrated because that game could have easily been 21-0, 28-0, because they had so many opportunities inside the red zone where they couldn't capitalize, whether it be because of penalties or because the East Carolina defense just, played well in the red zone. And so they managed to stay in the game. And in the second half, it was a lot different. I mean, all of a sudden, T.J. Engelman Jr. comes around and is running the football well. Marlon Gunn's running the football well. The offense gets going, make a couple plays. Hauser with his feet, Spalding through the air. Yannick Smith has a few catches. Anthony Smith has a few catches. And all of a sudden now things are working. And it was very reminiscent of the NC State game, right? How poorly the Pirates played in the first half of that game. And then all of a sudden, they were able to turn it around in the second half and have a chance to win late. This was almost identical to that. And so disappointing. And where Pirate fans are right now is that they spent a long time since they won a conference championship. And they're probably tired of hearing, well, we can do it, and man, if we can take this, look what we did in the running game, we can take that into the next game. We just kind of want to win, one of these big games on the road that matter in the conference championship race. But that's neither here nor there. They didn't win the game, but I felt like the second half they got much better, and I was happy to see the run game get going.
Kevin Monroe with us, ECU Sports Network analyst. That was very well said, Kevin. Yeah, a lot of frustration from ECU fans just because you always feel like you're so close. And I'm kind of having a little bit of trouble balancing because, look, Blake Harrell, we got to remember, too, this is his first year as a full-time head coach. Obviously, what he did last year, kind of on the fly. Like how important is that to remember? And it is a unique situation because he was here, 5 years as DC before that. So I think he's shown at this point he can run a pretty good program, make good hires. So, how tough is it to keep that in mind as well? That, I think he's still growing as a head coach each and every week as well.
Oh, I think the one thing that's not in question right now is Blake Harrell at the helm. I think everyone really likes Blake Harrell. I think everyone thinks that he can get it done. He's shown that he can win. And for once, I mean, if you look at the back half of last season and the first half of this season, we now have a group of guys that know they can win games, that can win close games, that can win games on the road. We haven't had that in the past. I mean, Houston had some good seasons here and there, but for the most part, in tight games, in games on the road, Pirates would find a way to lose more often than they would win. And Blake has turned that around, and he's had some nice wins in this program. And so, if people are grumbling about Blake specifically, they're just ill-informed because I think he's done a heck of a job. You can talk about different things. You can talk about, play calling on offense here and there. You can talk about things that we've done on defense, especially in the secondary here and there. You can talk about personnel and where we're lacking, whether it be at DB or what have you. And so those things you can name as reasons that we're not undefeated right now. But I don't think any of that falls on Blake Harrell.
Offensively, Kevin, what are you seeing? It's like right now the halves it's basically about half. Like the offense looks unstoppable for a half, and then the other half it's kind of just dormant. Like, is it just the inconsistency, the penalties? What are you seeing with the inconsistency there from the offense?
I think it all surrounds. First of all, the penalties are definitely an issue. I mean, you having the false, the holding, and different things like that will kill offensive drives. Anytime you get behind the chains, you can't do that and be successful in offense. But aside from that, it's the run game, and for whatever reason this season, the run game has just been, unexpectedly bad, and unexpectedly average. I'll say that. They haven't been terrible. They've run okay, but they've been very average. I think averaging 3.6 yards a carry before this Tulane game. Now, I think something clicked in the second half of that Tulane game, and I think they had a good day rushing the football. And I'm hoping that carries over, because if they can run the football, this is an offense that will be hard to stop, because you've got a quarterback back there that's an accurate passer. You've got receivers that can stretch the field, but also you got guys that can run the intermediate routes and make tough catches, including the tight end. And so if you can run the football, open up that play action pass, I think this offense will be deadly. But I think what's been holding them back is that they have had very little running game. And so that's put everything on the back of Hauser, and that's allowed teams to be able to, play more man, cover the box and erase the run game and say, okay, Hauser beat us. And, he's been up to the task most of the time. But when he's made some mistakes, that's cost them, in games like BYU. And so I think that's the issue is that, you could look to, different times you would have called different plays as the coordinator or whatever, but I don't think that's as big a deal as just not being able to run the football. I think that's hurt us more than anything else.
And I heard, Kevin, going into the game, they really wanted to, if possible, trim the running back rotation to 2, and instead we saw T.J. Engelman get in there, who looked really good. We saw Marlon Gunn, and now it's almost like we got 4 guys, and I don't know, how do you find a way to get these guys into a rhythm? The positive is you are pretty deep there, but, what do you think of that running back situation going forward and just kind of, the uncertainty there from game to game?
In my mind, Marlon Gunn has been the most consistent. So for my money, he's the top guy. I love what I saw from T.J. Engelman Jr. this week. He's definitely got to be in the mix. And then London Montgomery was the guy kind of coming in that was really the only guy getting yards. He had a couple games where he was averaging 5, 6, 7 yards a carry, just not as many opportunities. It's Parker Jenkins, I think, is kind of at the bottom of that run right now, and it's not doesn't make him a bad back. It's just at times he's kind of missed the holes, he's missed the cutback lanes. You can see it from the press box where there was something blocked there, and he just didn't see it. But it's good to have 4 guys that you can trust to run the football, but it's hard to decide when to play who. And I think it was one point where Jenkins and Montgomery were getting the majority of the carries, and I think that's what got the hunger up in Marlon Gunn. And so it started to be when he'd come in the second half, or he'd come in late in the second quarter, and he'd get 3 or 4 really good runs. You're like, man, where's this been? I think he's just been on the bench hungry. So in my mind, it's been Gunn. Gunn's kind of the guy. I love to see what Engelman did this past weekend. So they've got, a big decision to make as to who to play when, but they've got the guys back there to do it. They just got to get consistent with it and find ways to get yards.
Visiting with Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst. Looking at the defense, Kevin, I thought for the first time, really, I don't know if exposed is the right word, but definitely got beat a lot in coverage, which ECU mainly set back in a lot of zone. And, give Retzloff credit. He was taking some extremely deep drops in the pocket. He had all day to throw. I know they were worried about him escaping the pocket, but he made some big-time throws. And I just thought watching it live that the DBs didn't do the best job in their particular spots in zone coverage, which is, easier said than done. But as a DB, how kind of hard is that communication-wise with your other DBs and making sure you're in the right spot against, especially when the quarterback has a lot of time to throw?
Listen, I played the corner position, and it is physicality. Physically, it's the hardest position to play on the field. Now, you want to talk mental, probably quarterback mentally, but physically, it's the hardest position to play on the field. And, show me a good cornerback, and I'll show you a good pass rush. It starts up front. You've got to get pressure on the quarterback, because no corner is going to guard for 6, 7 seconds, 5, 6, 7 seconds. The good ones will give you 4. The not so good ones will give you 2 or 3. But after that, receivers are doing their job. They're running away from guys. They're going to get open. Just look at the Cowboys this year, right? You lose Michael Parsons, and all of a sudden, Diggs and Bland don't look so good back there because they're having to guard forever. They're getting no pressure on quarterbacks. And so it starts up front. I think the Pirates have to get more pressure on quarterbacks. And it's a double-edged sword, right? Because Josh Aldous is concerned about blitzing, because if you blitz, you take linebackers out of pass coverage, and you can't help the DBs, and that leaves them more exposed. So you got to be able to pass rush with just your front 3 or your front 4 and get home, and they haven't been that successful at doing that. So I say that to say they're not great in the back end. but they could use better pass rush up front. But yeah, I mean, Reason and Tamir Brown have been their two best players this year, but even they got some passes caught on them in that Tulane game and didn't look great. And so they have to be better at the corner position specifically. I think Wilk and Riddle are still doing their job at safety, but the corner position needs to get better.
Tulsa comes in Thursday night. They're off a bye week, so you know they'll be fresh, ready to go. 2-4 on the season, but they went on the road to beat Oklahoma State. They played some teams tough before getting beat pretty good by Memphis before the bye. So it'll be interesting to see what they have. What do you know on Tulsa? Have you had a chance to dive into them at all? Heading into Thursday night.
Yeah, just a little bit. I mean, they're going to be a team that they're averaging 18 points a game scoring wise, which in this day and age of spread offense, that's not a ton. And that led their 2-4 record. We thought they were going to be pretty good after going on the road and beating Oklahoma State. But it's Oklahoma State hadn't been very good this year, so we can't look at that as the indicator of how good they are. They have back-to-back losses against Tulane and Memphis, two of the better teams in our league, and Memphis just destroyed them. Tulane beat them by a couple touchdowns. So they are trying to figure their way out of here. I'm surprised that East Carolina is such a heavy favorite. That may just be coming off the heels of the 45-7 loss to Memphis. The bettors just thinking they're going on the road now against an East Carolina team that's playing pretty good. They won't hang in there. Hayes at passing, just about 200 yards a game. Richardson's their best running back, close to 90 yards a game. So offensively, they don't put up a ton of numbers scoring-wise. They don't put up a ton of yards overall, but they are solid. They've got some guys that can get it done. You let some of these receivers get open, they'll hurt you. So offensively, we'll see what they can do. But then defensively, they're giving up some points, they're giving up some yards. And so if the Pirates come in and can get on the board early, which they've done that in some of these home games where they've been successful against Campbell, against Army, they kind of struck first. And so if they can come in, get on the board early, put pressure on this Tulsa team, get them passing the football more than they want to pass it, that's where I think the Pirates can be successful. But don't get me wrong, just because they're 16-point favorites doesn't mean this Tulsa team can't beat them. They've shown that by going on the road and winning at Oklahoma State.
No doubt, solid team. If the Pirates take them lightly, they can certainly sneak up and bite you. All right, a few more things for Kevin Monroe before we get him out of here. You mentioned the Cowboys, man. I got to ask, losing to the Panthers, what's going on in Dallas, and how much have you had to hear about that?
Well, the good thing about me is I'm not a outward bragging Cowboy fan. If you've ever met one of those, but I just kind of keep to myself and watch the games myself. I don't call people and talk junk, and so nobody really looks out for me to talk junk to. So I haven't heard from anybody. But it was very disappointing. That's a bad loss for the Cowboys, just because the Panthers are fine, but they're an average NFL football team. They're not going to be in the playoff race. That's just not who they are. And so you lose that game, it's a bad. I mean, Dak Prescott is still playing at MVP levels, but that defense is historically bad. To give up that many yards rushing was just embarrassing. And you just knew that when the Panthers had the ball with 6 minutes to go, they were going to run that clock down because the Cowboys weren't going to be able to stop, and that's exactly what happened. So it's unfortunate, but if you can't play defense, you trade away the best defensive player in the league, that's what's going to happen to you.
Kevin, I do have to gloat about one thing, and it's just the fact that somebody who knows more about football than me agreed the Panthers are now average. It feels so good to be average. We've been just so far below average. We've been terrible for so many years. Even you, who knows football better than anybody I know, agrees. We've been promoted to average. So I'm sorry it was at the expense of your Cowboys. I do, but hey, we're average.
I think he was just being nice.
Yeah.
but yeah, tough loss for the boys. Big win for the Panthers. All right, final thing. Your youngest son, Butter, Derek Monroe, with a 5-catch, 105-yard performance for Green Level the other night. And I know Marcus obviously going through his rehab, getting ready for Stanford, but you got to be proud of Butter.
Oh, man, we're pumped for Butter. Everyone kept asking, would we send Butter to a different school, in the same school as Marcus or whatever. And what I tell people is it's the neighborhood school, right? I can look out my door and throw a rock and hit the football stadium over at Green Level. It's right across the street. It's where all his friends are. It's where he wanted to go. The school's only been open 7 years, and they're just historically bad at football. And I say that because they're good at everything else. I mean, the volleyball team is number one in the state. The lacrosse team has won the state championship 2 years ago. Gymnastics has won 2 straight state championships. Baseball's solid. Basketball's solid. They went to the fourth round of the playoffs last year. They're good at everything, and they're just bad at football. And so, they've never won more than 2 games in a season in the last 7 years. So they're going to figure it out eventually. I'm hoping they figure it out under Butter's tenure there. But the reason that I wanted him to go to school there is because I felt like he could play and be a factor as a freshman. And that's exactly what's happening. I mean, he's a good-sized kid. He's 6'1", 175, and he's starting on varsity doing everything. I mean, he's a punt returner, kickoff returner, free safety, and wide receiver. And so he's getting an opportunity to play at the varsity level week in and week out and get lots of snaps. And so he'll get tons of film, and that's why he's there, man. And he's enjoying it. Obviously, it's tough to lose, but they got a lot of good young players. They got a sophomore quarterback, another sophomore receiver that's good, a sophomore running back. So we'll see if they can get better over these next couple of years. But he's getting an opportunity to play, man. And Friday was kind of his breakout game. He made some big catches, and it was cool because it was the game of the week, and they had real broadcasters and everything. And so he was able to do that on the big stage, which was fun.
Really happy for Derek Monroe and you guys as a family. Butter doing his thing as a freshman on varsity. So looking forward to seeing what he does in the coming years. Going to be a high-profile recruit, I think. All right, Kevin, we appreciate the time as always, man, and we'll catch up next week, and we'll see you on Thursday in Dowdy-Ficklin.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. I go.
Absolutely. That is Kevin Monroe, ECU Sports Network analyst. Always great to visit with him. We will be right back on Hoist the Colors after this.
Storm season is approaching. North Carolina weather can damage your roof, and before long, a small leak can turn into a big problem. Your home is one of your biggest investments, so protect it with Wells Home Improvements.
We work with all insurance companies for a hassle-free roof installation experience. Call us today and get 10% off your roof installation when you mention this commercial.
252-227-8403 or visit us online at wellshomeimprovements.com. Wells Home Improvements. Local, honest, dependable.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leyva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Acre Station Meat Farm, along with Lane Angus Beef, bring you Farm to Fork Beef.
Stock your freezers now with affordable beef boxes just in time for the grilling season.
Farm to Fork Beef brings quality local beef to your family. From your traditional butcher shop, Acre Station Meat Farm. Come on down to Acre Station Meat Farm and find out why we're #1 in fresh cuts and friendly service.
Acre Station Meat Farm, Highway 32 North, Pinetown. At National Finance, we're all about hometown support, just like ECU football. National Finance helps us win on and off the field. They've got your back when you need it most. Fast, easy personal loans for life's big plays. And just like us, they're committed to Eastern North Carolina. National Finance, proud supporters of ECU athletics. Visit nfcmoney.com for loans as fast as today.
Remember, get the podcast of the show on the IBX Media app or where you get your podcasts.
Got it. You don't have to tell me twice. I remember it exactly.
Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the Colors. 2 days out from East Carolina and Tulsa. Philip Pilkington back in the 94.3 The Game studios. We'll have our pregame show on Thursday starting at 4 o'clock on 94.3 The Game. Obviously, we'll have our game day show that day of Hoist the Colors at 12 noon. So check us out over at Town Bank Tower 4 to 6:30 before the network pregame takes over. Philip and I will be there talking all things ECU, and we'll have probably a segment around the American then, but we're going to take around the American look right now and also kind of tackle this into the discussion of how the Pirates can keep themselves alive for a conference championship. And obviously it starts winning against Tulsa. You lose to Tulsa, and those chances are realistically pretty much done. So right now, the American as a whole, if you look at just the overall record, has 2 unbeaten teams in Navy and Memphis. And you have 2 one-loss teams in South Florida and Tulane. That's counting non-conference play. In conference play, you have 4 unbeaten teams. Those 4 teams we just mentioned: Navy, which is 4-0, Memphis 2-0, South Florida 2-0, Tulane 2-0. FAU quietly 2-1, although they have beaten up on some of the weaker teams in the league. Army 2-2. So after starting with a couple losses, including ECU, they've gotten back on track and are now 3-3 overall, 2-2 in the conference. North Texas, ECU, Temple, and UTSA all at 1-1. Rice at 1-3, and then Tulsa, UAB, and Charlotte at 0-3. So there's your full conference standings right now. And, I would say in many ways, Philip, kind of, before we start breaking this thing down, kind of what we thought: Navy, Memphis, South Florida, Tulane at the top. Like, I think this is kind of what, at least to this point, was kind of expected going into the year.
Yeah, I think those were kind of teams, it was a little, I think Navy was maybe a question mark. It was like an optimistic question mark. This is what we expected, but I don't think we felt as maybe confident as we did in the other 3 being at the top, just because you just kind of never know with teams like that. But, they're in now his second full year there. Brian Newberry's done a great job. I think this is his second full year, maybe his third. And, look, this thing's taking shape. Now the question really becomes, does anyone in that next tier jump up into that top tier? We had 2 teams with an opportunity to do that this past week in East Carolina and North Texas. Both were non-victorious in their contests. ECU looked bad early, obviously came back, made it a game. North Texas, kind of the flip side against South Florida, it was a game for much of the contest, and then the Bulls pulled away there at the end. So, look, the top's got 4. I'm going to guess somebody will fall off. Something's going to go wrong for somebody, and it'll end up kind of being a 3-horse race out of those guys. But it's been interesting to see who it is.
Yeah, Brian Newberry, by the way, in year 3, 5-7 the first year, and then I think 10 wins last year, and then this year off to a really good start. Now, let's look at each of these teams' schedule. We'll get more into ECU in a minute, but Navy, like, how good really is Navy? Because obviously they're good. You don't go 6-0, but I mean now it's a rivalry game. I get it, but you look at their last 3 games. They really needed a mini miracle in some ways to beat Air Force, which has 1 win, 34-31. They needed a miracle to beat Temple. Temple had no business losing that game. I watched the final quarter, and Temple should have won that game. Bad clock management, questionable clock management at best, and then just horrific defense on the final drive, which we can get into. But they also squeaked by Rice 21-13, and they've beaten Tulsa, UAB, and VMI. So they've beaten nobody, I mean, to be quite honest. Now, we're going to find out. They host FAU this weekend, but then they go to North Texas, go to Notre Dame, get South Florida at home, and go to Memphis. I mean, it's going to come to a head here shortly. I just have a hard time believing between at North Texas, South Florida, at Memphis, 1 and 2 seems like the most likely scenario there. Am I wrong on that?
No, you're not, and I think this is part of the reason I really didn't have them in the conference championship conversation going into the season. It's not totally a lack of talent, but I think they're a little less than those teams, and the fact they're getting all of them right there together. When you play a physical brand of football like Navy, we talk about how it dwindles down the opponent, but I think it dwindles down the team itself over the season, So they kind of fell off the end last year a little bit as well. I think they started 7 or 8-0, like I said, ended up with 2 losses. So And I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying they're going to be, just not competitive in these games. But, look, I just don't know if they can beat North Texas. To me, they are not scoring enough points week in and week out and consistently enough offensively drive in and drive out, in my opinion, to hang with North Texas. Now, their defense is probably a little better than some of the teams that North Texas has seen, but with that being said, man, it's still a high-powered offense. So I think that's a loss. Maybe you squeak out one between Memphis and South Florida, but, you're plugged in there with what's going to be a really tough trip to South Bend, which is, Navy Notre Dame's the most lopsided college football rivalry, I think, of all time. So, yeah, and I don't know. To me, they're a pretender, still not a contender, but they could prove me wrong.
4-0 in the conference to this point, which obviously is more than anybody else has had the opportunity to play due to their non-conference schedule on the back end. All right, so before we dive further into South Florida, which did beat North Texas 63-36, so I was coming back from New Orleans and watching the Mariners game. I didn't watch any of this game, but I got like 5 texts about how insane it was. Did you watch any of it as South Florida wins 63-36? There were 8 turnovers. The total for the game at one point was in the hundreds, live betting. So, it had to be just chaos.
Yeah, so I saw the first half. First half was maybe the tame of the two halves. A little bit. There was still some wackiness, and then I left and got my car to drive to Charlotte, so I just turned the Mariners game on the radio, and that kept me entertained the whole time. So, no, yeah. I didn't. And even when I was here, I was working, so it was on, but I can't really say I was watching it. So I'm not the best to maybe we need to have Bobby or somebody come on and talk about that, or whoever it was else that texted you.
Huge win for USF as they go on the road to get that done. They get FAU at home. They have them this week. Then they go to Memphis, so a potential ranked matchup there. They host UTSA and then go to Navy. So South Florida, which at this point is 2-0 in the conference, I would say their biggest landmines left are at Memphis and at Navy. They also go to UAB, get Rice at home, get UTSA at home. So I would say they got to be a pretty good favorite to make the championship if they can split those Memphis and Navy games. Memphis, which is 6-0 and 2-0 in the conference, they go to UAB. They play that South Florida game in Memphis. They go to Rice. They host Tulane, and they go to ECU in mid-November before hosting Navy. So their schedule also gets significantly tougher down the stretch. And we've had the conversation about Tulane, which is the fourth of the unbeaten teams here on the back end of the schedule. And I'm kind of conflicted because I know, obviously, you said you want Tulane to run the table so you don't lose the tiebreaker. And I agree with you, but I'm looking at their schedule, and I feel like there's a chance they could slip up twice. They host Army this weekend, which is, Army's playing better. Then they go to UTSA and go to Memphis back-to-back. Now, after that, they get FAU. They do have to go to Temple, and they get Charlotte at home. But, again, I just think there's a very unlikely scenario that I don't think any team is going to finish unbeaten in this conference as they look at these schedules, Phil, because they all play each other, and most of these teams have a 2 or 3 game stretch where it's pretty tough.
Oh, I don't think it's going to happen by any means. I'm with you. I just hope that Tulane beats Memphis. Memphis beats South Florida. We beat Memphis. And then it's some weird tiebreaker between us and South Florida. I think it's our best chance. I don't even know how that would play out if we had one loss to Tulane. South Florida had just one loss to Memphis. I'm not really
I think
sure.
It goes to highest CFP ranking, which would probably leave ECU out.
All right. So we
don't
need
100% quote me on that.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe we need Memphis to win every game except for against us. Is what we need to do. Yeah.
That might,
give Tulane
if
a
you
loss.
do that, yeah, and everybody else finishes with 2 losses except ECU and Memphis, then
that might be your best bet.
Then ECU would host the conference championship.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we're Tigger fans.
All right, so you hope for Memphis to win out that way. All right, let's say if Memphis wins out, if you're having the scenario, how can ECU still make the conference championship game guaranteed? All right, if Memphis wins out, that would give them wins over South Florida and Tulane,
with the exception of the ECU game.
Yeah, they would come into ECU 10-0, which that would make them top 15 at least.
At least.
So I think that might be your path forward. I mean, that doesn't guarantee
No, because Tulane would still have to slip up one more time.
Yeah. You would need, I guess, Tulane and South Florida to lose once more, but I think there's a better chance of that happening. I don't know. We're getting into the weeds here. Either way, that would be a big opportunity.
Stupid unbalanced scheduling makes so. You know what's going to end up happening? Like, Memphis will beat each one of those. We'll beat Memphis, and we'll have one loss, and those three teams will each have one loss. It'll be four teams with one loss, and then we'll have to roll a four-sided die, which doesn't exist, but.
Yeah, it's just, as we've talked about, the problems these things create. All right, Jason Tyndall, he says, just take care of business in the thick Thursday night period. And, yeah, I agree. I mean, you got to win. If you're ECU, you got to win out to have a realistic shot, I think. And that's the thing is a lot of people – we had some comments earlier to start the show. You know, Lane Smith says, I have a bad feeling if we don't win the next three, our season will not go well. Corsair says the Pirates will be lucky to win 7 games this year. They're not contenders, they're pretenders. And I don't know, man. I'm just not buying it. And maybe you guys will be
lucky to
right.
go 7-5?
Yeah. I mean, like, I just don't understand that. What is he like? ECU has lost to the teams that they're dogs against, and they've beaten the teams they're favorite teams. I think ECU is a floor of, I guess the true floor would be 6-6, but like the most realistic floor probably 7-5.
Yeah. You lose to Memphis, you lose to UTSA.
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
Like,
I think that's probably not going to happen, but I think we beat you.
Your most likely scenario, I think, is 7-8 wins.
Yeah.
So, like, to be lucky to go 7-5, I disagree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a few plays away from being 5-1, and everybody talking about how, you know, great the win at Tulane was, and then everybody be talking about going undefeated. So let's not get caught up in the world is ending or we're the best team ever, which I get. Like, that's what we do as fans of our teams, but there is a balance here. I think ECU is a very good football team, as we've talked about. I don't think they're great. And right now, I would not expect them to win out and go to the conference championship. We're just breaking down the scenarios of if you win the next 3, you at least give yourself a shot, potentially, hosting Memphis. And that's, you know, the Temple game, I will say, Washington Temple, they are much improved. But I still would take ECU in that game. I think ECU is the better, more talented team. They just got to go play well. If they play well, they'll win the next 3. But that's the big question.
Yeah, but that's the nice thing. At least the ball's in your court, right? If you play well, you'll win. If you play to your potential, you'll win. And then you can really chase the conference championship. Because if you can be gutsy, you're bowl eligible. Because in college football, there's non-bowl eligible, bowl eligible, conference championship. There's not much difference in 7-5 and 6-6 at that point. You can go out there and risk it all to win a game, run some stupid fake play that you wouldn't if you're still chasing bowl eligibility. So if you win these next 3, man, you just kind of put yourself in that position when Memphis comes to town. You can throw everything but the kitchen sink at them.
No doubt. And it's, look, the American, it's kind of, you know, Lane Smith says, yeah, but we haven't played well. And I think that's also, I agree, Lane. You haven't played well against good teams, and you know you didn't play that well against Army, but you still beat a solid Army team 28-6. So what happens if ECU does play well? And we have had the conversation too. Maybe you just are what you are at this point, and I think we will find out truly. Obviously, if ECU can take care of business against Tulsa, you get another bye week, and then you get the stretch run. You get 5 games in November that will truly decide it. So obviously, you got to take care of business first on Thursday. This is not an easy game, but there is a path there. And we'll see. All right, let's get a break in. We'll come back. We will wrap up the show after this. Hoist the Colors on a Tuesday.
It's time to soak up the savings at Greenville Toyota. Summer is here with hot deals on a great selection of new Toyotas, like a Corolla, $189 a month, or Tacoma, $279 a month. Soak up the savings at Greenville Toyota.
You know what the problem is with standard belts? Usually you have to choose between too tight or the opposite, too loose. But with Anson Belt and Buckle, you don't have to choose. We got rid of the holes and instead have a track system designed for micro-adjustability. That way you can enjoy a perfect fit every time. Anson Belt and Buckle. Find your perfect fit today.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville, we've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked-to-order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
The sun is out, and so are the deals at Greenville Toyota. Soak up the savings on a hot selection of new Toyotas, like a Camry, $229 a month, or RAV4, $289 a month. Soak up the savings at Greenville Toyota.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's Cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
On 94.3 The Game.
Hoist the Johnny Roger!
Now, back to Hoist the Colors.
All right, welcome back in. Final few minutes here. We were talking about the American. Jonathan on Facebook, or YouTube, says, can't say that it's possible for ECU to make the conference championship at this point. Losing Tulane gutted our opportunity. The reality is nothing's changed a whole lot since week one, he adds, other than the running game, maybe making some progression. We are where we are. We are where we are unless the offense can make some strides. In general, I agree with your point, Jonathan, but it is possible. If you look at the ESPN analytics, ECU, which is still rated as the third best team in the league, fourth best behind Memphis, USF, and just behind Tulane. The Pirates, they have a 1.7% chance of winning the conference, and they have a 0.5% chance of making the college football playoff, Philip. So the dream is not dead.
No, I mean, that's a 1 in 200 shot in the college football playoff. It's not terrible.
I mean, I'll take it at 3-3. If you would have told me ECU would have a shot at the college football playoff at 3-3.
Yeah, gonna need James Madison to lose a couple more games, I think, and UNLV to probably get swept by Boise in that scenario. So
0.5%.
Yeah, a lot of things.
They have a 9% chance. I was surprised that it was this high, but I guess it makes sense. A 9% chance of winning out. So. This is according to ESPN's Football Power Index.
If you win out, you're not guaranteed to be in, but you're at least coming down to a coin flip or something. At that point, it's not terrible. I'd take.
I'm just saying, there's a path. Yeah. Ben Byron says, "You're telling me there's the chance." To quote Dumb and Dumber. Indeed. Ben Byram says, "I think we should go for getting a better bowl game than the Military Bowl. Maybe that should be the goal right now." Okay. What is a better bowl game than the Military Bowl?
I get where he's coming from. The tough thing, Ben, is like our tie-ins, like it's all those kind of bowl games. Like they're all like equal now. Like we don't have a tie-in to like the Outback Bowl, which would be higher rated than some of the other. Like that's an SEC Big Ten, for example. There are lesser than SEC Big Ten. The problem is with the American and the way it's all written up, it's like you pretty much get what you get, and they're all relative. I mean, like the Myrtle Beach is probably the worst. But like Military Birmingham, that's kind of the top, unfortunately. The Cure Bowl, I feel like it's the same crap.
Selfishly, any bowl game in a warm location, I am in favor of because I'll probably go. Now, Hawaii, you said that's in the rotation, allegedly, right, for this year, for the American?
It is. Yeah. I'm already working Thanksgiving.
I don't know if I'd be able to Yeah. I don't know if I'd be able to swing that, but if I could, selfishly would vote for Hawaii Bowl. But, yeah, I don't know what the realistic possibilities are. Like the Fenway Bowl is a possibility, but I don't really want to go to Boston in late December. I mean, that just doesn't sound very fun. As much as I love Fenway. Yeah, but at least that's inside. I know it's cold in there as well, but I don't know. Ben Byram says, let's get a banner. Go ahead and start making some 0.5% chance of making college football playoff shirts. I love it.
Good marketing there, Ben. I like it.
Yeah. I like the idea. And, a lot of comments. Just I think fans are frustrated that ECU missed the opportunity, which I understand, at Tulane.
Tulane didn't play well. That's the frustrating part.
Yeah, that's frustrating. But, hey, win starting Thursday. Let's get the hype train, start cranking it back up. And before you know it, we'll have another big game on our hands. But obviously got to take care of business before then. So we are out of time. We will continue to break down Tulsa, ECU in the coming days. Obviously, Pirates 16-point favorites. Can ECU cover that spread? We'll get more into that tomorrow. We'll also try to continue to get a Tulsa insider on the show. We'll dive more into the matchup with the Golden Hurricane and the Pirates. So Thursday night, 7:30, again, our pregame show will be 4 o'clock on that day. But tomorrow at 12 noon, we'll see you then as we continue to break this thing down. Appreciate everybody for their comments and for tuning in. Always good to interact with you guys, and let's do it again tomorrow. Thanks for listening.